Hey, welcome to How to Beat Depression, and we're a few weeks in now, and so you should be trying to implement some of these changes in your life and should hopefully be feeling different a little bit. This week I wanted to talk to you about doing your best, and I sort of came up with this way of managing my life that means that I'm only really concerned with what I'm doing. Now, it's a little bit tricky to do this because it's quite hard to ignore what everyone else is doing, and it does take a little bit of practice. The idea of it is that all you ever need to do in life is your best, right? You're your own competition. You've only got to do better than what you did before, because you're you. You're unique. You have a unique set of things that hold you back. You have a unique set of skills that you already have. You have different experiences. All these different things mean that every decision that you make is completely different to when someone else makes that decision. What I try to do every day, aside from doing a little bit of meditation in the morning, is that I have some kind of affirmations and stuff that I do, but the cornerstone of what I say to myself is, what's the very best that I can do today? And then I sit there for 5 minutes and really think about what is actually manageable and what I can do. When you ask yourself that question, you take into account like what my schedule is like, how I feel, do I have any money, what other things need to be done as well, like all these different things that sort of affect. Because I mean, it's all very well saying, well, I'm just going to go and shoot 20 vlogs, or I'm going to go and, I don't know, whatever, get a new job, or, or I don't know, hang glide, whatever the weird thing is that you set yourself. But there are lots of different kind of variables that affect the answer to that question. And sometimes when I think you plan your life and you say, well, today I'm going to do this, and you desperately stick to it, that it becomes quite unforgiving. And then when you don't do it, you sort of think like, oh, well, I haven't succeeded and I've failed at this task that I've set myself. If you can honestly sit there and say to yourself, what's the very best I can do today? And I'll say to myself, well, I'm going to work out. What kind of workout am I going to do? And that will be dependent on how I'm feeling, or if I'm really, really tired, then maybe I'll be kinder to myself and do something that's like quite light cardio or something like that. Or if I have some different work challenges that I need to do, I think to myself, well, what's the most important things that I can manage that I definitely need to get done? But it's all about what you're capable of doing and what's the best you can accomplish in that day. And you know later on that, I don't know, maybe someone's coming around to paint something in the flat, so you can't do these things, but it's all about just doing the best that you can do at that moment, making the best decision for your life at that moment in time. That's all you can ever ask yourself. And it's a much kinder way to live, because setting yourself completely unrealistic like standards and targets and stuff like that is just, you're only ever going to be mean to yourself when you don't hit them, you know? If you think more about the little steps, the little things that you can do to move your life towards where you want to go, it's just a much kinder way to live. And you need to be kind to yourself, because with depression, there is a part of you, part of your brain that is very, very unkind to you, you know, so you need to be understanding. And maybe it's a case of, oh, well, I was going to go and take the kids swimming today, but you wake up and you feel really depressed in the morning, and maybe you just can't face it. So you ask yourself, what's the very best that I could do today? What can I manage to do today if it's a really bad day? What can I manage is all you can do. That's all right. Maybe it's just, well, I might take the kids around my mum's, or maybe I'll just take them for a walk in the park, or, you know, there's something else. There's an alternative that you can do, but you kind of need to ask yourself that question and be kind to yourself and understand that some days you don't feel fantastic and the things that you wanted to do, you can't. But you have to be kind to yourself, be nice to yourself, be understanding. If your friend let you down and said a similar thing, you wouldn't be a dick to her or him. You'd be like, well, that's really shit. I'm sorry you feel like shit today. Let's do something different. And you know what, maybe because you feel really bad today, why don't we do something that will make you feel better? You love going to the cinema. Why don't we plan to do that? Because you feel bad today, you know? Or maybe if I go swimming with the kids, if I can manage to suck it up and get on with it, but without it being destructive to myself, without it making you feel worse, because that's important to not make yourself feel worse, I will reward them and me with, I don't know, like a really nice donut or cake or something afterwards. Like, find a way of persuading yourself gently, or just being kind to yourself and understanding that you're not always going to be able to be a superhero who does everything, because you're not. You're not. And you need to understand that you can only do what you do, and the best that you can do is always good enough. At the end of the day, you are your own judge. You set the rules of your own life. Why not make them friendly? Why not make them understanding? Why not make them so that sometimes when you don't accomplish something, you don't beat yourself up about it? Because if you do, you're so much less likely to try the next time, you know, or it just seems so overwhelming, this huge task that you set yourself. So what happens? You don't do anything, and you just sit there and you don't achieve anything with your life, you know? And one of the things I hated most about being depressed and being in bed and not being able to go out and do stuff was I felt like I was wasting my life. And I would get so angry and so upset with myself for wasting life. And I know how important it is, and why can't I just shake this off? You know, if you can just persuade yourself to do a little something, to not let the day be wasted, you will feel better about yourself, because so much of it, you just feel like you're wasting time. So don't waste time. And you can do that by being kind to yourself and being friendly to yourself and being understanding. And there will be some days where you can't do anything. And I get that. So be kind to yourself on those days. And maybe you can only work at 50% of what you'd like. That's okay. That's your personal best for that day. And that's all that matters. The first time I really started thinking about personal best was I'd gone on a holiday when I was about 17 to Cyprus. And I'm terrified of heights, really don't like them at all. And I got it into my head that in life, you do everything that scares you, because if you can do that, then you can do anything, right? And I remember being on this holiday, and they had a bungee jump there, and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm terrified of heights. I'm gonna do this, because I think like everything else that I'm afraid of will be so much less so. So I went to go do this bungee jump, and I remember getting in this crane without really understanding. I don't think I've ever been up that high in such a capacity before. I got in this crane and this thing's going up, and I'm like, I've never had such a physical reaction to my body being moved. It was like, I thought I was gonna have like a stroke or heart attack or something. It was utterly horrendous, like just awful. I've gone up in this crane, and you're like over the sea, and like everyone's watching, and I'm at the top of this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, well, you're not going back down in the crane. I'm like far too proud to do that. And I'm standing at the top, and the bungee cord is so heavy, and it's like your feet are tied together and you feel really unbalanced, and the guy's like trying to count me down to jump off, and physically I'm finding it almost impossible to do this just because I'm so terrified. So I get to the edge of the thing, and I think like, oh, I've just got to just do it for like 1 split second. That's all I've got to do, is convince myself for 1 split second to do it. And I found it almost impossible to do, basically. And the way that I realised I could do it was just by shutting my eyes and thinking about something else for a moment, you know. And all it takes is a little moment, and then you're jumping, right? So I was up with this thing, and I jump, and I say jump, it was about that's how much I jumped. And normally with a bungee jump, you're supposed to sort of dive forward, so that when you come down, you're the like right way up, and then you kind of like bounce or whatever. I basically jumped so I was upright, so I basically jumped down like that, and then got fanged like this. But I jumped off this thing, and I went all the way down, and it was terrifying. The first bit was, it was not actually pleasurable, and then it bounced, and I was like, oh, I'm okay. And then actually it was kind of quite fun. Why I'm telling this story is because after I'd done this bungee jump, with like my friends watching. There was one guy who was like part of our group, and he was taking the piss out of me for doing this bungee jump and it being like a crap jump and all this sort of stuff. And I was thinking a couple of things. First of all, I was thinking, shut the fuck up. You didn't even have the balls to try to jump, mate. But second of all, I knew how fucking hard that was. I just did the most terrifying thing that I could possibly do. Yeah? Jump off something when you're afraid of heights. You, mate, have no idea how terrifying that was and how fucking proud I am of myself that I just did that. I don't care that the jump was crap. I fucking did it. You can't take that away from me because you have no idea what it took for me to do that. And that always stuck with me, that memory, that there will always be people who will judge you for what you do, you know, within the greater scheme of things. But you know what you've had to get through to get to that point. You know how difficult it is. You know that you've accomplished something fucking fantastic for you, and don't ever let anyone ever take that away from you. And that's why having your own personal best is the most important thing. You know how hard things are. You know how difficult they can be. You know when you've really fucking tried, yeah? And you do deserve a pat on the back for doing that. Fuck everybody else. They are irrelevant. They are nothing to do with you. They are nothing to do with your journey, okay? You're your own judge. You're your own critic. Set the standards. Know when you've worked hard for something and reward yourself and be nice to yourself and say, fuck yeah, I did something bloody fantastic and I feel good about that. It doesn't matter that it's 1/10 of what someone else did. Who cares? They've got a different fucking life to you. You know how hard you've worked, and own it. And understand that your best is always good enough. Always. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise.